All right. So here's your bottom line up front for Fire Away episode 55, the double nickel. You know, I think sometimes millennials get a bad rap. I suppose technically I'm on the older end of the millennial scale, so I might have to agree. But, you know, that also brings up another point, that not all millennials are created equal, especially with Catholics on Instagram. And to prove my point, giving his thoughts on the church in the modern world, I have Christian JL from Instagram's @the.catholic.millennials, so stay tuned.
Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
What is your profession?
Saddle up. Lock and load.
And when you're patriot feeling, zero to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. You're listening to Fire Away with Carlos Bersabe, brought to you by Catholic Ammo, En Route Books and Media, and WCAT Radio, where we're locked, loaded, and ready for battle with today's hot topics. Howdy, everybody. This is your host, Carlos Bersabe. You're listening to episode 55 of Fire Away. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe via iTunes or whatever platform you are using and give us a great rating and review. It really is truly appreciated and helps us out a lot. So let's do a quick recap. On last week's episode, we had Luisa and Marisa on to talk about the situation on the ground in Sweden and how the LGBTQ movement have made quick and steadfast inroads into Sweden. In that country's context, we also talked about some constructive ways to address the issue. So if you missed it, go ahead and give it a listen, but do it after, because today we're going to shift gears and talk about Catholics in this millennia, specifically with Instagram's @the.catholic.millennials/Envia. But that is way too much for me to say over and over again, so I'll just call him Christian JL, or probably just Christian for short, and I'm probably just going to say Catholic Millennials, the Catholic Millennials on Instagram. But before we go any further, let's go ahead and bow our heads in an opening prayer. And Christian, if you could, please.
Well, thank you for having me, Carlos, and let's start this in prayer, one of my favorite prayers that has taught me many things and brought me through many of life's endeavors. Start in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. So, thank you for having me, Carlos. Pretty exciting.
Yes, sir. Amen. Thank you for being here, man.
Definitely. You know, it's funny because we go back a little ways. I believe you were actually part of the page. What did we look it up last year? A little over a year ago.
Yeah, it's been a good hot minute. It seems like.
Definitely, and you know, my apologies. I know you reached out asking if I want to be part of your podcast then, and you know, as things happen, things change. I forgot to respond, and I've always been, you know, interested in your podcast. I've listened to them. I've seen you on Instagram. We've talked on Instagram, and then I realized, I was like, wait a second. I remember him asking me, but did I ever respond? So let me apologize for that first and foremost.
Oh, it's all good, brother. You are forgiven, and there's really nothing to forgive. I'm just happy you're on the show.
Oh, definitely. You know, there's time for everything. And so a little bit about the Catholic Millennials, how it started.
Yeah.
Basically, the goal of the Catholic Millennial page is, when I was starting the Envia page, and we'll get into that later, I was seeking out different Catholics to, you know, talk to and to kind of build relationships with via Instagram. And when I was doing this, I was noticing that there's so many Catholics out there of all these different walks and all different ages. And I thought, man, it'd be really cool if there was a platform to highlight them and to kind of give them a voice to share their faith and to actually connect with other Catholics, kind of like a hub. And so that's kind of what the Catholic Millennials started off as. And I wasn't going to do it as my main page. I was just doing it because I saw a great, need for it. And I was going to let it grow on its own. And so I did this little logo. I don't know if anyone remembers. It used to be green and black. And I put it up there. And I didn't post anything for about a week. And I looked back and it had 62 followers. And I was like, well, I didn't post anything. So I thought, okay, I need to start kind of building this up because people are interested in it. And it's funny how God will bring you different paths and take you different ways that you don't expect. And so I kind of turned my attention from building the Invia page and focus on the Catholic Millennial page. And basically I reached out to different Catholics. A misconception is that you have to be millennial to be on the page. You actually don't have to be. There are a lot of millennials on there, and that's why we do call it the Catholic Millennials, but anyone is welcome to share their faith. And I believe we learn a lot from people who have walked the path before us. That's why I love having their stories on there. And I've been very blessed with the page because I get to talk with each person on there. I think, a rough ballpark, we've posted anywhere from 350 to 400 Catholics on there in the past, year and a half. And each one has a unique story. Each one has a unique journey. And each one we can learn from. I'm a big believer that God works through all of us. And each in our own special ways. I know we're all created in the likeness and image of Christ. In the likeness and image of God. In His making. And because we share His body, He can shine His light through us. So I always tell people that if we were able to see who God is in each individual all at once, everyone in the world right now and everyone who has lived once before, all at once, we would get a better idea of who God is, but we would still not know who He is because He's so vast and so mysterious. But He still can be personal to each of us and come through in our own unique ways, working with each of us through our journeys and our struggles. And that's what I really, really wanted to highlight on the page. And for a while, I didn't put my face on there. I didn't post anything about myself on there, just because I really wanted to step back and let the page be about everyone else. And then kind of through, now you're working with other Instagrammers and talking with people and what works and what doesn't work, you got a better following. It turns out that people kind of like seeing the face behind the page. And learning that, I'm able to explain that to other Catholics on Instagram, that when a lot of times they'll make a post and they won't put their face on it. And I let them know, like, oh, I've done that, been there, and it turns out incorporating yourself, even a little bit, really helps personalize the page where people actually will interact more. And I've seen, since kind of doing that a little bit, I've seen such a big dramatic increase on the page. And it's great because I get so many messages that someone was able to connect with somebody, or someone who was going through a certain struggle read a story that someone posted about themselves about that struggle, and they were able to connect, and now they're friends. And people all around the world are posting on there. It's great to hear these stories, and all glory to God. I'm not really doing anything other than coordinating these posts, or just putting together and copying pasting. I really want to give all the credit to God because He's dwelling in each of these individuals, and He's allowing them to kind of show His light. And we are using social media to do that because if you look around today, in this day and age, everyone's glued to their phones. Everyone's on Instagram. I'm not sure if it's the the big one right now. I realize Snapchat was big for a while. Facebook was big before. When I was younger, it was MySpace. But right now, I think it's Instagram, and that's where a lot of people are. And if that's where a lot of eyes are, that's where I kind of want to be able to show Christ in some way or form. And the nice part about Instagram is you're able to see how people live their lives and also how Christ incorporates Himself in their lives, and just to make it more real. it's a lot of the people we see at church. We only see them on Sunday. We don't really know what they do outside of the mass. We don't really know who they are, their family members. Sometimes what struggles they're going through. But everyone kind of puts their lives on Instagram, and being able to scroll through and see what someone's been through or what they're achieving, it's really cool. And for me, the one thing that's really amazing is seeing how many young millennials are actually going into the religious life. And they're my age, they're younger, and it's really cool to see, because you might think, oh, there's not a lot of people going into the church or the religious or seeking out a vocation in that aspect. And then you see them on Instagram talking, and they do fun stuff. They go on vacations. They're what you would call a normal millennial, yet they are following Christ in their vocation. And there's many ways to do that. Also marriage, to follow Christ in your vocation through your marriage. And one thing we've been using the page for now is talking about Catholic marriages, and kind of being a voice for that, because it's one of the greatest things you'll ever do. If it's something you seek out. And then also allowing the page now, what we're doing is allowing people to also do live streams and get more involved. And just, I want it to be a community page. It's not about me at all. Anything I learn, I try to put out there, especially my mistakes. Because if I can help someone avoid a mistake by learning from my mistakes, well, that totally makes it worth it. And it's just a great thing that I never thought of being a part of, or coordinating at all. But like I said, God works in funny ways. He sets you on one journey and it takes off on another. And that's why I truly believe in just following Him and letting go and letting God, because He will help you achieve the mission if you seek to do it with Him.
Right on, brother. Well, you spent probably about 10 minutes doing what exactly your Instagram account does, which is shine the light on others. Yet for some odd reason, you did not say much about who you are. So I want the listening audience out there to get to know you too, Christian. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story?
All right. So I come from a cradle Catholic family. We're cradle Catholics. And, we went to church every Sunday. My mother was a public school teacher. My father was in construction. And, I had a great little, nuclear family life growing up. And then I found my faith. I found my faith when I was 17, and I've been to church. I've understood the Mass. I've understood what the cross was, and I listened to the Bible, and I heard it. But I can tell you, all I did was hear it. I didn't feel it. And when I was about 17 and a half, I started getting a headache, and I used to get a lot of headaches then, but it was different. It was different than every other headache I've had, because where it stemmed from was my neck. And it would radiate to the front of my face, and it was pretty painful. And that's what kind of made it different, was how severe the pain was. So I went about a week with it, and I told my parents, this headache hasn't gone away. It's really hurt. My eye hurts. Okay. So we go to the doctors. The doctor's like, try this and that. All right. Then we wait another 2 weeks, like the doctor said. But now my ear's starting to ring, and my eyes starting to droop. And I'm kind of like, okay, what's going on here? And it's funny, because my prayers then were, God, take this pain away from me. Or, hey, this kind of hurts. Can I go back to normal, being who I was, doing the typical things a 17-year-old does. I wanted to go out with my friends. I wanted to go party. Summer, we just finished high school. College was coming up, and all these things. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go have this great life and, go to college and party and do all these things, typical people do. And God definitely had different plans for me. He wanted me to learn to depend on Him. And I'm very grateful for it. So fast forward, the pain gets worse. I have doctor after doctor. I was admitted in one of the top 7 hospitals in the country. I literally had about 28 to 30-something specialists, doctors, see me. And no one could figure out what's going wrong. I mean, if you add up all the times I've been in an MRI machine and combine them to one, I've had to been in there for over 24 hours. I've had multiple tests, all these things, spinal tap. Anyone who has to deal with that, I'm very sorry. It hurts. But I have a little advice towards the middle. Let's talk about that. And all these things happened. And I kept asking God, why? And thank God He didn't answer my prayers and make me feel better. Because a lot of times I feel like we might ask for that, not understanding why. And he was teaching me something. He was teaching me to have faith. And he basically had to break me down to build me back up. And, I used to work out a lot in high school. I would play sports, fight jujitsu. I loved being active. And I was like that up until this time. Within 5 months, I was probably down to 130 pounds, 125 pounds. I couldn't hold down any food. Um, I was constantly in pain. I couldn't sleep because of the pain. It was rough, but it was a very peaceful time. When you lose everything, you find what matters the most, and that is your relationship with Christ. And I remember sitting on the bed one day after just being beat down and beat down and beat down, and having dealt with this pain for so long. And my prayers finally changed to where I want to say I actually started to pray because I wasn't asking for something anymore. I was complying. I said, and it was just a conversation too. It wasn't like I was like kneeling at the altar or anything. I was just laying in bed. I was holding a rosary that I never really knew how to pray. I knew how to pray it. I knew how to say the Hail Marys and Our Fathers, but I never knew how to feel it when I prayed it. And I was holding the rosary. I was staring at a crucifix, and I said, God, I don't know why you're doing this to me, but what I do know is that you love me. So no matter what happens, it's okay. I trust you, and I love you, and thank you. And basically, if you notice, I went from someone who was asking for something to someone who was willing to follow Christ no matter where he led him. And I wish I could say, as soon as I did that, God said, you passed the test, time to get better. No, it got a lot worse. And one of the doctors I had thought they noticed something in my brain. And so now they started exploring, but because it was so deep in there, we had to do an exploratory surgery that was quite invasive. And I remember it was October of 2018. And I had the pre-op where you go and meet the surgeon and they explain everything to you. And up to this point, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not getting any better. Whatever happens, happens. God's going to guide me through it. And he tells me, we think you have this. We're going to go into your leg and go with all our tools through your veins and literally go into your brain with our tools and examine what we have to look at. You're going to have to stay awake. You won't feel anything. You'll be a little out of it, but you'll be awake. And if we find what we think you have, we're immediately going to go into full-on brain surgery, and we don't know if you'll make it. So, getting that news, I was at peace already with following Christ, even if that meant following him to death, because at that point I knew if I was going to pass, there was a bigger, better reason why. And I don't know if God was testing me to the point of death, or if he just wanted me to feel it. But what I can tell you is this: the fruits of this encounter with Christ have blossomed into who I've become. So the next day, I go in for surgery, and I thought for sure this is it. I'm going to die. And I didn't want anyone to feel bad. So I told all the doctors and the surgeons, thank you so much. I was smiling, I had a big smile on my face, and no matter what happens, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And when they strapped me down, they had to keep you strapped because you couldn't move at all because of the tools that were inside of you. They strapped me in a cross on my legs at the bottom to the side together, and then my arms to the side. And I thought about St. Peter when he was going to be crucified, and he said, I'm not worthy to die like my Lord. So they crucified him upside down. And I remember seeing the medicine that was supposed to really it wasn't going to put me to sleep, but it was going to make me really out of it where I wouldn't really know what's going on. And as it was about to go through the needle into my arm, I was really sad. And I wasn't sad that I was going to die, because I was at peace with that. And I knew that if I was going to, there was bigger, better reasons why. And it was going to save souls somehow. I was sad because God gave me this life, and I did nothing for him. I lived for myself. And it wasn't until my last few months I accepted to follow him. And that was hard to stomach. But I figured it was too late. So, fast forward to the surgery. I wake up, doctor's smiling. He's like, hey, kid, we made a mistake. You don't have it. Everything's great. And I'm like, what a free gift. Like, that was the best wake-up call anyone could ask for because I thought I was at my end. And now I get this new chance at life. And I eventually got better. They never found anything wrong with me. It took another about, I want to say a year for the pain to almost fully go away. But through that journey of the next year, God started bringing people towards me who had problems, issues, different things, anything ranging from, I was just out of high school, so a lot of my friends' parents were getting divorces. I was new into college, so you meet a lot of people who were starting to get addicted to drugs. A lot of just your normal, typical issues with people. And for some reason, they saw light in me. And I wasn't into any of these things, but I was there for them. And I got really, I guess the word's addicted to helping people. And so I would kind of have a whole list of people I'd currently be just talking to and talk about Christ. And they'd always ask why. And I said, because through my physical pains and struggles, He's what got me through. If you're my friend and I don't want you to hurt or suffer in anything you're going through, I'm not going to give you a second-rate answer. I'm not going to give you a second-rate solution to your problem that might work or might not. No, I'm going to give you the best that I know, and that's faith in Christ. And kind of seeking that built me up into who I became the next few years. And don't get me wrong, you challenge your own struggle. I mean, you go through your own challenges and struggles as well, your own temptations, figure out who you are. It's funny, when someone's on a faith journey, and meeting a lot of the millennials and just people in general on the page, I tell them, it's great, because I've been there, it's great when you feel like you're soaring because you're doing great, you hit confession, you're doing awesome. But don't forget about the spiritual warfare aspect of it, because you will fall. You will fall hard. No one's perfect, but don't ever feel like because you have fallen, you can't get back up. The fun part about falling is getting back up, because you can now have something to reach for, because you've been there before. But because now you have the strength to get back up, you'll excel where you once were. And all that is with Christ. And that's kind of who I am. And, fast forward, these lessons you learn in life, I'm thinking, I for a couple of years, I struggled really hard with discerning the priesthood or marriage. And I was around the Dominicans a lot, and I loved to preach. And so I really wanted to go into that, and I was discerning with them for a little bit and meeting with some of the priests there. And, I had a hard time. And it's funny, God brought me through a very, very long, dramatic encounter with, the pain and everything. But to answer my question, I don't know if He does this all the time. I was like, God, I don't know. I struggled for a while with this. I don't know what to do. I don't know if you're calling me to marriage, or I don't know if you're calling me to the priesthood or the religious life. I'm not sure. And it's funny because sometimes He touches your heart in silly, fun ways. And I remember watching the movie Grown Ups with Adam Sandler.
Right.
And walking out of that movie, I knew that I was called to marriage. And even though I was called to marriage, I never let go of my faith. I allowed it to guide me. I allowed it to strengthen me every time a challenge came forward. And it's funny, when when you fight for God, the devil comes at you all kinds of ways. And for anyone out there worried about that or scared about that, congratulations, because if you caught his attention, you're doing something right. If he's trying to get in your way, it's because you're doing something for the salvation of the souls. Keep it up. Don't let that scare you. But fast forward, I met my wife, and we were childhood friends, and her father was my foreman. I was his apprentice, and he actually worked with my dad. And, I had a big crush on my wife when I was like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old for years. And we kind of split ways. And then, growing up, her dad became my foreman. I still haven't seen her since we were 12. And he was diagnosed with cancer. I think this was April 2015. And being who I am, at work you can't really be. If people knew I was religious, they know I'm religious, and I wear my crucifix and everything, but they don't know how deep I am in my faith because it's kind of hard to show that today. Um, Obviously, you can be there for people and pray for people, but there is a struggle there in the workplace, and to each their own on that. But so what I did on my own without telling him is I was going to adoration at St. Bruno's to that, luckily that 24-hour adoration. So I went to adoration to pray for him and his family and for his conversion because he wasn't Catholic. I know his parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't know what his daughters were. I thought about my wife because I'm not sure what she was anymore or at all because I haven't seen her since I was 12. And I prayed for him, and while I prayed for him, I asked for the intercession of multiple saints, and one of them being Saint Dominic, and the other three was Saint Padre Pio, Saint Mother Teresa, and Saint Pope John Paul II. And it's funny how God doesn't always give you the answer you're looking for. And I've learned to, when I pray, I don't pray for an answer anymore. I just pray that God gives me the strength to endure whatever His will be. Because I know His will grant more salvation of souls than mine. So I prayed that. And unfortunately, he did pass away. And it wasn't too long after that it was a funeral, and I saw my wife again. But we were just, we just saw each other after, I don't know how many years it was, 16 years maybe, or no, 13 years. And I was really wanted to help. Her dad helped me a lot. And I really wanted to help out the funeral, help out any way I can. And, he left behind two girls, or his three daughters, and they were about to go through a huge struggle. Now, remember where I talked about before in my life, I would be there for people. So I've been there for a lot of people who lost family members. I've been there for people who lost children and just kind of walked their path with them a little bit because I wanted to remind them that walking your struggles or doing them with Christ will give you the strength to overcome them and strengthen yourself. Never ever to say, oh, look at me, I'm helping people. No, never at all. It's literally to make sure they know there is a solution or a way out, I guess. Oh, there's hope. Don't forget that. It's easy for us to get that when things are hard. It's easy for me to forget that when things are hard. And a constant reminder is good. Remind everybody that, everyone. But, my wife and I, we started, hanging out a lot more, and I was there for them, and her sisters were younger, and we kind of just clicked, and it was the weirdest thing ever, how everything fell into place. I'd like to say it was, a gift from God how everything happened. Unfortunately, we came out of her father's passing, meeting again. But all the struggles that came after that, I stood by her side, even though we were just friends. And her family were always, wondering why are you doing this? Most people, even our own family, wouldn't do all you're doing. Because there was a lot of things that happened after that. And I always reminded them, it's because I'm Catholic. This is what we do. Because I wanted them to know that, left up my own self, I'd be doing anything else. I was only 25 at the time. I'd probably be out partying or something if I didn't have faith. And one thing led to another, and we started dating. And my wife was very intrigued by this Catholic man that seemed very confident when challenges would come forward, in all aspects. And I always reminded her my confidence doesn't come from myself, it comes from my faith and my experiences. And being intrigued by this, she wanted to go to RCIA. And it was about, I want to say, I'm not sure how long after, but it was December, and RCIA starts in September. Now, I called around all these churches I've worked at or helped at. I worked at the archdiocese. I've worked, under many bishops. I had a lot of connections. And this goes to show you that God has a plan. Trust him. I reached out to anybody I could, and everyone's response was, "No, I'm sorry. It's mid RCA season. She's missed half the class. She's gonna have to wait till next year." And I remember texting her, telling her, "It's okay. Sometimes God says no. Once again, he's testing your obedience, I guess." And as soon as I sent her that text, I got an email within 30 seconds. And it was from Saint Dominic's. The saint, or the church where the patron saint is one of the people, or the saints that I was asking for their intercession for her father's conversion. So, cool part is, they responded super happy, and they were like, "Sure, bring her on down. We'll get her up to speed. We'll take all the time she needs. We'll get her right up there, and we'll teach her everything she needs to know." And my wife's very smart. She has multiple degrees. She loves books and reading. And just the harder it is to learn something, the more she loves it. That's how she is. And I've never been to St. Dominic's RCA's program, but when I walked in, it was like a college course. It was like projectors and teachers. They brought in professors. They brought in the priests. They brought in everybody. And it was a hard course. I learned a lot through that course. And so did my wife. And the thing I love about it, and I want to remind everybody out there, is I was so proud of her because before we went, she said, "I'm doing this for myself. This is between God and myself. If you try to force me into this, or if you try to persuade me into this, I won't do it." And I said, "Good. I'm glad you said that because it's authentic. Because it's from you." And my wife's almost home. You guys are about to hear my dog go crazy. And so she went through with it. She was confirmed, and not too long after, we were married. And just seeing God's hand in that journey was so amazing, and built us up. We rose from the ashes of something so dramatic and horrible and hard, and it taught us to stick with each other. And then another little gift from God we weren't expecting is we would go back to help teach at RCIA, and that's how India started. I didn't know if you want me to touch on that on this episode or a different episode. I'm not sure how much time we have.
You can touch on it a little bit.
Okay. So we were there, and we had a group of different adults for RCIA, and in our group was a very charming man, and he loved God so much. You could see his smile, how much he loved God. And he was from Africa, and he would tell us how in Africa that the troops would try to kill them. And he showed us the scars on his body where he was stabbed with a bayonet, and the guy thought that he was dead. And, he was asking God, like, "Why am I going to die? Like, I loved you so much, and I guess it's my time to go." And he said that he heard a voice saying, "Scream into the dirt." So that's what he did. So when the guy stabbed him, he screamed to the dirt, and the soldier couldn't hear it. Now, fast forward, he's in this RCA class telling us this. We're all like, mouths open, like this is amazing, and you love God so much. Like, we look at our problems and we think they're so big, and here's this guy literally getting stabbed, and he loves God to death for saving him. And, we had great times, great conversation. I learned so much from him. And one day he saw me with the new paracord rosary I ordered online. I was very proud of it. It was really cool. And he said, "Man, that's a really cool rosary. It looks very durable." And I said, "Oh, it is." And he goes, that would really last on the streets. He goes, "Mine, it was a little string one, and nothing's wrong with that." But he said, these string ones, they break all the time, being homeless. And I looked at him. I was like, "What did you say?" And he said, "Oh, I'm homeless." And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it because he's so happy, and he was always well put together and all these things. And I said, immediately, I was like, "How can I help you? Like, what do you need?" And he said, I remember he said, I've had a good life. I've partied with God in this life. But the real party is with God in heaven. Don't worry about me. And I was dumbfounded. It was so touching. I mean, immediately as soon as class was over, I went and ordered him one of those rosaries. But unfortunately, we never met again. He didn't miss a class. Class was every week on Tuesdays, and he didn't miss a class for 3 months. And I don't know what happened. It was very cold in San Francisco that night or that week. It was wintertime. Um, and I don't know what happened to him. I hope the best for him. I asked around, no one's seen him since, and I never got to see him again. So, with the rosary I was going to give him, I gave to the priest to say if he ever showed back up, this is for him. And that's what started the mission of In Via, which is Latin for the way, which is what the first Christians called themselves. And basically, my wife and I talked about it. I said, sure, we can go out and buy, 100 paracord rosaries, but we're always going to be limited to the amount that we can buy with our own money. So, I like to draw. I've never designed anything before. I've never built anything, jewelry-wise. And I guess if you ask God to guide you and you're doing it for Him, He'll give you the strength to do it and the challenges He challenged you with to figure it out. And so I decided I'm going to design crucifixes. And we will sell them. And with the profits, we will provide paracord rosaries for the homeless. And it's been actually quite, surprisingly going well. A lot of people don't know this, and I don't like to really talk about it, but I don't take any money from Invia. All of it goes back into the business. All of it goes back into new designs, but mostly it goes into paracord rosaries for people who are homeless. It's my way of letting God work through me, but it's my way of thanking that man for all that he taught us. And it's another way for everyone to be involved in something. Bishop Shane always says, and this isn't to get anyone to buy anything, obviously, but Bishop Shane always says that love of neighbor will help you so much in your prayer life. And it's true. I can say that because seeing people when they receive the rosaries is just amazing. They're very simple. The ones that are given away, you still get our Dia Sword of the Spirit crucifix on it. That was very important. But I designed the rosaries to be practical for someone who lives on the streets. They're very long. They have no beads. The entire thing is paracord. And the reason for that is so they're easy to wash. They're very long to fit over multiple layers of clothing. And the less that can break, the better. It's hard out there for them. And it's been so nice to see people knowing that, profits will help go to them. Right now, we're actually going to start where anything purchased at full price, I'll still cover the shipping, will be able to provide one full rosary for a person who's homeless. And you can actually write your name on a little card and a message for them. That'll roll out in the next few days. Well, by the time this actually that'll roll out. And then that's literally to get people more involved with feeling what it's like to give. And we all give in certain ways in different ways. And it was just something that God helped me along the way to do, because I couldn't do this on my own. I didn't know how to design a crucifix. I didn't know how to get here, and there was many, many failures along the way. But we're here now, and it's doing pretty well. I get to meet a lot of amazing people through it, and more so, there's a lot of people that get affected by it. I think we've given away. I forgot how many rosaries at this point. It has to be over 100 rosaries. And I'm hoping to double that next year, if not more. Now, with since business is doing better, the profits get re-put into more rosaries and new designs. Things are coming out a lot nicer and faster, and more people are learning about it. So it's really nice to see, and it's just a way for everyone to be a part of the gift. Basically, right now what we're doing is if someone purchases it, you get to put your name on a card. I send it to usually someone I met on Instagram was a homeless ministry, another Catholic, and they give it away. So that means there was 2 or 3 people involved in this gift for this person to remind them, we all did this for you. for your prayer life so you can walk with Christ. And that's our mission. Um, and it's great to meet people like Carlos. It's great to meet people on all these different websites and all these different Instagram pages, and just seeing everyone's faith in their own missions. And I just want to invite anybody out there, if you want to share your mission or your faith, we have a page for that, so everyone can get to know you and you can get to know them and be a part of this. We're all in this together, and we are stronger as one. We are part of the biggest church in the world because it is a church that Christ himself established and is in. We all share in his body in the Eucharist, in the Mass. We are all one. And I think I'll kind of segue into what we were talking about with some of the things Catholics are facing in today's world. And something we were talking about is the Latin Mass versus the vernacular. And, just a little backdrop for anyone who's not sure what that means. So before Vatican II, all the Masses were in Latin. And I have a lot of older friends that, were, born Catholic in their 80s, and they'd say they would go to Mass and just pray the rosary because you didn't really know what was going on. So Vatican II changed it to the vernacular, which is the language that is spoken in that region. And so that way people could participate. Now there's a big liking to the Latin Mass, and I can completely understand why. It's different. It's something we're not used to. I think Pope Benedict allowed it to come back. Both are great ways to celebrate with Christ, to celebrate the Mass. And my only advice is, I've been a part of, bishops being ordained where I'm, helping in the Masses. I'm up there with the MC. We're coordinating things. I got so lost in the technicalities of the Mass, of what needs to get put where I need to put this person, where's this going, carrying the cross, doing these things. I never really got to understand it. And because I didn't understand it, even though I participated, I couldn't enjoy it. So whichever Mass you're going to, make sure you understand what's going on. And it will blow you away. There's a lot of theology behind it. It will blow you away. And you'll get so much more out of any Mass you go to. And it's along this journey, I think it's been, almost 10 years. And I can say probably in my 9th year, I started kind of understanding the Mass even more, to where it was more of a spiritual thing. And it's funny to say because I like I said, I've done all these things, and you think, one way, but you can always improve. And the day you stop trying to improve in something is the day you're going to fail. So the one thing I always try to remind myself is no matter how far I've come, I always have to be humble. And I always have to realize I have a lot more to learn. I have a lifetime to learn. And hopefully I learn enough that I stay on the straight and narrow path to heaven is the goal. But I have a great wife that supports me. I support her. Our mission for each other is to make sure we each get to heaven, our family members. It's definitely a battle worth fighting because it's the only battle worth winning. And, that's kind of what I had to say there.
Dude, this has been like one of the easiest episodes I've ever had to record. I didn't want to mess up your mojo with going, yeah, oh man. I was like, nah, I think there may have been one moment when I interjected with a but I couldn't help. I forgot to stop myself. I was like, he sounded good rhythm. I'm just gonna let him go.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is nice. I was like, all right. And so while you were talking, I looked up the Envia. So for all of those people out there who just heard about Envia, so this is how you find it on Instagram. If you're not already following the at the.catholic.millennials, go ahead and look up shop.envia, INVIA, and you will see the different things that he was talking about. And that's a beautiful story. I had no idea. I mean, you shine the light on so many other people that you don't really shine the light on yourself. So it was a interesting, cool, new thing that I had no idea. So I was like, let me go look this up, and boop, I hit follow. Now I'm following you there, looking at all these different things that you offer and the story of being able to help out the homeless. That's powerful stuff, man. That's good stuff.
Oh, thank you. All glory to God, definitely. And I can say this: if it wasn't, and I want, if there's, the one thing I want everyone to take away from this is God will take you to the edge of your life in different ways. We're all very unique. Therefore, we struggle differently. Something that might be a hardship for somebody else might not affect me the same way. And something that might bring me to my knees in prayer might not affect somebody else in the same way. So always appreciate somebody's struggle and don't ever put them down for it, because that might be the way God knows to get to them best, to achieve what the goal is at the time. And, when I was sick and I was going through all that pain, it took me a few months to get really broken down to accept it and to accept whatever happened. And I can honestly say this: if I can go through it again, I would, easily. I was very fortunate that I was the one that went through it, because it's a lot harder to watch a loved one go through it than it is to go through it yourself, I think. But because of that struggle, it has given me so much more enjoyment out of life, because I choose to walk this life with Christ. And because of that, look how much you get abundance of joy through things like meeting Carlos on Catholic Ammo, meeting different people on Instagram, being a part of something that's helping somebody. It's things that I can say, if I didn't have faith, I wouldn't be doing any of this. I'd be that same person from the beginning of the podcast who was praying to make himself feel better and not be hurt, because I was thinking about myself. But when you allow Christ to dwell in you, and I'm not a perfect person by any means or a saint, but I try very hard to let Christ dwell in me. And I can tell you this: the times where I'm happiest is when I'm following the rules. The times where I'm the least happy, you got anxiety, you're worrying, is when you're not following the rules. And that's different for everybody. The rules and stuff are the same, but what your level of tolerance is different for everybody. And the one thing I want you guys to know is, when you're going through suffering, if there's anything you take out of this, and it's kind of my main message out there, is when you're suffering, suffer with Christ, and you will build your faith, and you will make it through with Him. And if that's the goal of life, to walk with Christ and to die with Christ, you're okay. And it's going to be okay. Have your faith.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, so this is a little bit of a pretty refreshing for me, because one of the things that's been grinding my gears a little on Instagram is, you bringing it back up, is a little bit of the liturgy wars. What I heard from you was transformative. It wasn't, that aspect of, I really like this rite, it elevates. You took that message from the Mass, the dismissal, your commission to mission, out into the world in a different way. You're able to show your love, and you're not just going, hey, check out, name your favorite. I've been on this bend for a little bit of name your favorite Catholic personality, go follow him. And, I've been praying pretty deep about this, to where 1 Corinthians chapter 1 just popped up again in my head of, we're not followers of Peter. We're not followers of Paul. Paul said that, I didn't baptize them in my name. I'm glad that I didn't baptize these other folks, so that way they could take pride in being baptized by me. We're not followers of Jesus per se, definitely not primarily. And, you being able to shine that light on, people's pain, people's suffering, and shine it in a way that it unites that pain and suffering with the redemptive suffering of Christ. That's a beautiful thing. It gets past all the petty, which way is the priest facing? It gets past all that, hey, can we have drums and guitars at Mass? And it really goes down into the roots of what it means to be Catholic, of we just received Christ. We should be conforming ourselves to His image and likeness. Can we be recognized as Christ when we leave Mass? And with what you're doing, how you're talking, how you're walking, brother, that's great. That's exactly how it should be. The presence of Christ on Instagram in particular shouldn't always just be, I'm more Catholic than you. I get so many, that's probably, like I've been getting so many random messages going, I would have liked your page, but you're just not Catholic enough. I'm going to myself, thinking to myself, holy smokes, dude. Like that's a new one. Like, I don't know where this fire is coming from. I'm glad that, you're on fire for your faith, but, focus on your faith before you start focusing on the faith of others. Because if you're willing to call me out on that, be willing to step up. I give my number to people whenever they want to have a real deal conversation, and they very rarely take me up on that offer. Because I'm like, look, man, I'm not going to get mad at you. This is the internet. There's nothing to be mad at. You're not going to be able to hurt me unless you're a master hacker or whatever. So how about let's just talk about the faith and grow and learn from each other instead of spitting all this hate. So this was refreshing. This was great.
Well, and definitely I need to, give credit to God putting on this path. I think I would try to insert myself in people's situations when they were going through the worst times in their life, and that's how I learned in my own way and on my own journey. That's how I was able to learn and to appreciate what works best to not get them out of it, because there's nothing I can do to get them out of it. There's nothing ever. It's a divine intervention from God, but it's trying to remind them that you need to be open to God to give you that divine intervention. And it rarely was ever the the technicality of the mass, which I do love all of that stuff,
Right.
When someone's at their worst, when you just, gosh, I think one day, it was a car accident, actually. Someone got hit, and, we ran up, and, the wife's there, and the guy dies right there before the fire department could get there. And just praying with him and telling him it's, gonna be okay. And just having that confidence in the life after. And I remember, even though she was pretty much in shock, and I was able to put my rosary on, start praying for him, and she just wanted to pray it. And just reminding, like, at someone's worst, it's all you have is Christ. When I was at my worst, when I lost everything of who I am, and I couldn't take care of myself for months, all I had was Christ. Sure, I had my parents that were there, and my sisters and some friends, but most people move on. Most people aren't there anymore, and all you have is Christ. You get to hang out with them in a special way, and that's why I've always been very, very grateful for my journey, and very grateful for all the people that I allowed me to walk with them for a little bit along theirs at their worst moments, because you get to learn so much about life and appreciate life in a way that you're able to recognize something that isn't going to really benefit the goal. And for me, my goal is, in some way, God willing, I get to hear him say, "My good and faithful servant, you fought the good fight." And if I'm in a war, if we are in a war, spiritual warfare, I don't want to prescribe or fight in a way that's just going to give, move the milestone a little further forward. We're out here to win battles because we're trying to win the war. And it's so easy to get divided. And the devil, he's really good at that. And he's dividing and conquering in many ways. Every parish has their own, split in different things. And the church, if we don't band together and seek Christ first and foremost in our own journeys and allow him to guide us, it's going to be very easy for the devil to blind us.
Yeah, man.
And, if you see division, you'll know he's there. If you see division, he is there. And it's just like, I forget who it was, but when they spoke with the demon, they asked the demon, "What is your name?" He said, "My name's Legion." Well, Legion was 10,000 Roman soldiers. And it was, I think, during exorcism. And you get to hear the power that is against us, because it is power, against us. But don't ever forget this. Whether you're stuck in a spiritual battle, whether you're going through the hardest sufferings of your life, whether you lose a family member, get diagnosed with a disease, one of your family members get diagnosed with a disease, no matter what it is, and you don't know if you have the strength to make it through, never forget this, that he who is in you is much stronger than he who is in the world. And I forgot which pope said that.
It's okay. Look it up, folks. Look it up. Don't get lazy. Look it up.
But when you remember that, and you're a part of this church, and you're a part of, he's in you. He dwells in you. You consume the Eucharist. Christ is a part of you. You share in that strength to overcome these things. You just have to allow him to live through you and build you up. I feel like we could talk for hours. And one thing I just kind of want to add also is, we really talk about marriages. And I always say this to remind everybody, when I made my vows to my wife, when I made my promises to her, part of my vows said that if we are to become one with Christ, and we are to be the living presence of Jesus Christ on earth, then along our journey home, as Jesus carried his cross, so will we.
Right on, man.
As Jesus fell, so will we.
Yeah.
But as Jesus got up, so will we.
With Jesus, amen.
Yes. So look forward to the battle ahead. It's an adventure. A Catholic life is an adventurous one. Look forward to it, embrace it, and have fun. Because these challenges are hard, but overcoming them with Christ is so rewarding.
All right, with that, I'm going to take that as your saved rounds and parting shots so that we don't go too far over time. And looky here, what do we have here, folks? That is our musical cue, letting us know that we're out of time for this week's episode of Fire Away, brought to you by Catholic Ammo. Many thanks to all who are listening, and special thanks to our guest, Christian from at the Catholic Millennials. Make sure you add the dots in later to be able to find them out, and then also don't forget to find Shop in Via. Thank you so much for your time, brother, and hope you'll join us again. We had so much to talk about. You had a lot of great things to say that I fully expect you to be back on the show in the future. So for a quick recap, I don't know that we can do it all that quick, but I'm going to try anyways. It was a blast. That testimony that Christian gave us today was amazing. So re-listen to the show over and over. But before we finish, let's go ahead and bow our heads in a closing prayer. Christian?
Lord, I just want to ask that anyone listening to the show, anyone out there who is suffering or going through pain, please guide them to you. Let them find shows like Carlos's Catholic Ammo or anyone out there on Instagram who is willing to help be a light for them so that they might find you and walk with you along their journey home. Amen.
Amen. For more thought-provoking, soul-enriching content, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under @CatholicAmmo. Again, that's @CatholicAmmo. And be sure to check out more Fire Away at wcatradio.com/fireaway. This is your host, Carlos Bersabe. Until next Friday or whatever day I can squeeze an episode in, keep mission focused and stay locked, loaded, and ready.
Failure is not an option.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.